Hey guys, this is E-House.
I'm Kyle.
And we have an interesting video today. One that didn't go kind of how we were expecting really in any way.
No, we were trying to do one thing and we ended up with something totally different, and it involved math, and it was interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. So we went out to River City Airsoft today, and they have a range out there that has targets at 50, 100, and 150 feet. And we took one gun that was shooting just about 1 joule, maybe just a little under, with 0.2 gram BBs and pretty much every other BB we put through it.
Correct.
And then we took another gun that was shooting at just about 1.6 joules, which is...
It was about what? It was about 12 FPS over 1.5 joules.
Yeah, so it's like right on the rifleman limit, which is why we picked it for this particular video. And what we were trying to do at first was compare like the ease of making hits with the time to target of various BB weights, but the conditions really sucked.
Yeah, they were terrible.
So we're basically throwing out the part about ease of making hits because we should have fired from a rest. We should have not shot on a day that had crazy amounts of wind.
Yeah.
It was cold, so the hop-up bucking was all messed up. You know, way too many variables. But we did do the number crunching on the time to target.
Correct.
And it's really fascinating, the results that we got.
Yeah, so what we did is we picked a couple of different ways to kind of give a spread. We took 2s, 2 5s, 2 8s, 3 2s, and 4s, and we ran that through both the 1 joule gun and the 1.5 joule gun at all of the respective distances to see what the time to target. Because the general conception before this, you ask anyone, is like if you use a real heavy BB, it takes forever to get out there.
Yeah, versus if you use lightweight BBs, then those will always be faster to get to the target. Heavyweight BBs are always slower. I recommend that as we're doing this video, you open the Google Doc that we put down in the description and you look at the times and the data for yourself and follow along as we're discussing it. And I mean, honestly, even you could just skip the whole video, read the data for yourself, and draw your own conclusions. I'll put some notes in there with it if you don't have time to watch the video and hear our thoughts on it. And our data didn't quite support that, or at least not as dramatically as a lot of people would think.
No, the difference in time is significantly lower. I'd say the biggest takeaway before we go over some numbers is that you shouldn't use 2s.
Yeah, no, 2s were pretty pathetic at this. You would think that being the lightest projectile, 0.2s would be the fastest.
Yeah.
But they're only the fastest at the muzzle.
Yeah.
They must just be so light that being a sphere, they bleed all their energy right after the muzzle, because we found that 0.2 gram BBs were not as quick as even 0.25s.
Yeah, like the 0.2s, they won just barely at the 50-foot mark. And that's against a wide variety. Like, just barely. We're talking, let's see, with the 1 joule guns, it was what, like about 0.03 of a second?
Yeah.
And that's pretty consistent. Maybe a little bit more with the heaviers. With the heavier ones, we were up like 0.3. So less than half of less than 0.05 of a second. That's it.
I mean, the difference between 0.2 gram BBs and 0.25 gram BBs at 50 feet, 0.2 gram BBs were about 0.266 seconds. For how we did the method of this.
Correct.
We filmed us shooting with the airsoft gun, and we took the peak of the loudest point of the shot, which is the pistons slamming forward, hitting the gearbox, hitting the front of the gearbox. We took that peak, and that's also the air leaving the muzzle, all that shit. Yeah. That's basically when the BB leaves the barrel. But we were consistent of that peak to the sound of the BB hitting the target, being taken by the camera. So we were consistent with our measurement, and we basically did that by counting the number of frames.
Correct.
Because, my camera shoots at 30 frames. I was shooting at 30 frames a second at the time, and we went by the frames and used those frames to find roughly how many seconds this took. We were consistent with that method. And we found that 0.2 gram BBs at 50 feet were about 8 frames, so about 0.266 seconds. So about a quarter of a second.
Correct.
Whereas 0.25 gram BBs were like 8 1/4. They were like kind of in between the frames, and that was like 0.27.
0.27, yeah. And then as we went up, the 2.8s were slightly slower in that, and the 3.2s is where you started to really see a little bit of drop off. Those went all the way to 0.32 seconds. So again, we're not talking a dramatic difference. And then the 4s were actually, I think, pretty much in the exact same.
Yeah, right around it was 0.3 seconds.
Oh, 0.32 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
0.3.
So 0.3s at 50 feet, we're right at 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then 4s were at like 0.31 seconds.
Yeah, so again, the 500ths of a second difference between 2s and 4s. That's it at 50 feet. So I thought it would be more. I was thinking it was going to be like almost 2/10, but that's less.
I just think again, my best guess is because 2s just bleed so much energy at the muzzle that, yes, they are traveling faster at 50 feet, but then at 100 feet,
that's where we really see it.
We pretty quickly see everyone catch up at 100 feet. Because then at 100 feet, 0.2s took about 3/4 of a second, 0.766 seconds to reach the 100-foot target. And then you get 0.25s, and those reach the 100-foot target at 0.733 seconds.
Yeah, so
they were a whole like 1 or 2 frames faster than 2s.
Yeah, so you're already faster with 2.5s at 100 feet. Faster, you're covering the distance faster, which is surprising. I didn't expect it to overtake it with that much of a gap, that little of a weight gap between the two of them.
Well, they've got 25% more mass, so they just carry that energy further. Which was especially evident at 150 feet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At 150 feet, 0.2s reached the target in 1.63 seconds. 0.25s reached the target in 1.266. So about 1.25 seconds versus a little over 1.5 seconds.
Correct, yeah.
And that's a quarter of a second.
Yeah, that's a significant difference.
Which, what did we just determine was...
For every 1/10 of a second, easy way to put it. For every 1/10 of a second difference at 150 feet, if someone is running 7 miles an hour perpendicular to you, it means that for every 1/10, they can move 1 more foot. Or 1 more foot that you have to lead by in order to connect with them. So that's I would consider that's your margin where hits either make or don't. Because if you've got a whole foot between them, that can make or break it.
Yeah, so now you're at about 24 to 30 inches of point of impact difference versus where someone could be running perpendicular to you at 150 feet between 0.2s and 0.25s. So if you're not making hits on moving targets at 150 feet and you're using 0.2s, that's why. Because even 2.5s are going to get there dramatically more quickly.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is 2.5s ultimately don't have the range that the heavier BBs are going to have, especially with the more higher energy gun. But in terms of time to travel and up to this 150-foot marker, 2.5s did amazing.
2.5s were excellent with their time to travel at this point because, I mean, even with the 1.5 Joule gun, 2.5s reached the 50-foot mark in 0.23 seconds. They reached the 100-foot mark in 0.58 seconds, and they reached the 150-foot mark in 1.13 repeating seconds. So that's pretty darn quick. That's really getting out there. And with 2 gram BBs at 1.5 joules, you did not have that much more of an advantage. I mean, the 2.5s were again faster than the 2s. They got to the 100-foot mark in about 0.02 of a second faster than the 0.2s at 100 feet, and they got to the 150-foot mark about just over 1/10 of a second faster.
Correct.
Which again is a full foot of motion of a sprinting target perpendicular to you.
Yeah. It's surprisingly, and what actually was really surprising to us is like we thought these travel times were going to be be 1/10 of a second apart in that, because you always get this impression that 4s are going to be dramatically different, and it just the widest gap was, what did we calculate it to?
Well, because the widest gap at 1 joule was
it was at the 150-foot mark, I think.
Yeah.
And let's see, 2.5 was the best, and let's see, 4s were 100.
4s were
1.266.
4s were the same as 2.5s at 1 joule.
1 joule, which is interesting.
Well, and this is something else that's interesting, is if you look at our data sheet, 0.4s were just as quick, like pretty much exact, like very, very close, closer than we could accurately measure. They were very close to 2.5s. And we have a hypothesis for why this is.
Go ahead. Go with the hypothesis.
But the hypothesis for why that is because the gun we were shooting the 0.4s out of at 1 joule could not adequately hop the 0.4s.
Correct.
So we had to aim over the target at 150 feet. And I wonder if the 0.4s not getting as much hop resistance meant that they didn't lose as much velocity as you would normally lose from hop resistance when you're using heavier BBs.
That's our thought, because I mean you were holding over.
I was holding over, like a few feet.
So that's our theory that on why the fours, the times were almost identical. Was that FPS loss. But if you were maxing out versus the lift versus that much holdover, I mean that's probably like a 30, 40 FPS difference.
Yeah.
But if we're going to compare it, I mean, another big surprise is the difference in time travel between the 1 and the 1.5 joule guns. Not that big.
Not huge. No, it was not that huge with the 1 joule gun versus the 1.5 joule.
I mean, on average, I would say we gained about a tenth of a second.
Yeah. So, well, maybe. I mean, because with 2.5s, you were at 0.27 seconds for 50 feet at 1 joule, and then with 2.5s, you were at 0.23 seconds.
Yeah.
That's only 0.04 of a second that you gain.
At the 50-foot marker, nothing.
Yeah,
It means nothing.
Half a joule of energy.
Correct. But where you see it at the 100-foot marker, then you gain a little over a tenth.
And I mean, at the 100-foot marker, you gain almost, 0.15, so a tenth and a half.
Yeah, so that's a significant difference. And then at the 150, again, actually that's a huge difference.
Yeah, 150 is a full tenth of a second, at least. So, you do gain, definitely, time to target, but you really, within 150 feet, it's probably not that dramatic.
No, again, someone running perpendicular, but if you're looking at someone peeking out in terms of their reaction times, the tenth of a second probably isn't going to make or break you.
But you know what? To a certain extent, it kind of can, because if you're doing a 150-foot peak war, if someone's snap shooting out on you...
That's true.
I mean, they're moving like 6 inches either way.
That's true.
And you can snap shoot pretty quick.
I wonder how fast we can do that.
I mean, I don't know. Let's measure it.
Time that.
I'm going to put some bullshit measurement down there.
Infinitely quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting that the times were not dramatic.
Let's take 0.25s, because they were the fastest.
Yes.
And 0.32s, for example.
Yes.
So a lot of people say, hey, I've been using 0.25s. I've been considering going to heavier ammo.
Yes.
Most people aren't using 0.2s at this point. If you're looking at this data, you really should not be using 0.2s.
Yes.
But most people are like 2.5s, very common.
2.5s to 3.2s, that's a reasonable jump.
Or if you're going to a Milsim West game.
Yes.
Because the 2 ammo weights they offer are 2.5 and 3.2.
Yep.
If you're deciding, what ammo should I get? Should I get 2.5s or should I get 3.2s? The difference between 2.5s and 3.2s at 1 joule is 0.27 seconds at 50 feet versus 0.3 seconds. So 0.03 of a second at 50 feet between 2.5s and 3.2s. And then 0.733 seconds at 100 feet versus 0.7 seconds for 3.2s. 3.2s were faster at 100 feet than 2.5s.
Yep.
And then you get to the 150-foot mark, 1.266 seconds for 2.5s and 1.23 seconds for 3.2s. So if your gun shoots around 1 joule, 3.2s are actually going to get there more quickly for you.
Out to 150 feet.
Out to 150 feet,
You know what? That would make sense, because I used to have a Crytek PDW, and with that gun, the best range I got
was 3.3s.
Was 3.3s.
Yeah. So I think that at that energy level, and I'm not a physicist, I cannot explain why we saw the difference in weights at the different energy levels with how they each did at each energy level, which I think just further reinforces that when you buy a new gun, you should buy a shitload of different BBs and test the hell out of that gun and see what it likes. I mean, this explains why my SR-47 really likes .32s.
Yeah.
Because it's just over a 1 joule gun, but it pounds 3.2s out there. That's why. And then you get into 0.25 versus 0.32 at, 1.5, just over, like 1.6 joules maybe. And you get 0.23 seconds at 50 feet versus 0.258 seconds at 50 feet for 2.5 versus 3.2. But then again, 0.58 versus 0.633. So you lose a little bit of time to target at 100 feet at 1.5 joules with 3.2s.
Correct.
But you do gain accuracy and elemental resistance and wind resistance.
Correct.
So which one is more important to you at that 1.5 joule mark? And then you get to 2.5s at 150 feet at 1.5 joules. You got 1.133 seconds versus 1.183 seconds. So you lose like 0.05 of a second.
Yeah, so you're 6 inches. Again,
Maybe
that's about
6 inches of someone sprinting perpendicular to you.
Correct.
And what do you gain in accuracy and consistency? Because here's the interesting part. Do you make up that 6 inches in time to target for someone running for, say, 6 inches less of deviation at 150 feet?
I would say so.
Yeah.
In my experience, I mean, and this wasn't an accuracy test because we would need a much more controlled environment,
Yes.
but in my experience, the heavier go, groupings start dramatically shrinking down.
Yeah, and even on the shitty day that today was, we did notice that it was easier
As
to
we went up.
consistently make hits if we figured out the hold as we went up in ammo weight.
Yeah.
And then, .4s are just, with the 1 joule gun, they seemed to do the best. They traveled as quickly as 2.5s.
Yes, correct.
So, who knows? Maybe try 4s in your 1 joule guns. Maybe those really, really like 4s. But that might also depend, like I said, on if you can adequately hop it and give it the hop resistance required in order to make the
But you had to do big holds to do that.
Yep.
So I think effectively 3.2s are going to be the best for a 1 joule gun.
I wish we had 3.6s for this test.
I do wish we had 3.6s.
We did not have 3.6s for this test, unfortunately. But if we had 3.6s, that would have been really, really cool.
If I'm speculating, I think the 1.5 joule gun would benefit from the 3.6s. I think the 3.6s will still have crossed the threshold on the 1 joule gun, if I were to take a guess. Because actually, you know what? I did have 3.6s at one point, and I did try them in my Crytek, and I lost range. Now, I have no idea what the time to targets were because I wasn't trying to measure it at the time, but in terms of net range, 3.2 was my max, /3.3 was my max range effectiveness.
And I wonder if that's because that was what you were best able to hop.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right. So yeah, that's a lot of numbers. But then you get into, man, that's a lot of numbers. So overall takeaway, what would we say is the number one takeaway?
I would say the number one takeaway, 3.2s are really good.
I mean, I think 3.2s are a nice middle point for my priorities and my uses. But if I was prioritizing just time to target within 150 feet,
2.5s.
I'd say 2.5s. Like if you're building a gun to do room clearing, maybe 2.5s are a really, really good bet.
If you play at a CQB field where you're not going to shoot outside of 150 feet ever, you want 2.5s.
Yeah.
Don't spend the money on the heavier ammo because you don't need to. There's literally no purpose to do it.
And you are actually at a disadvantage with 2s once you get out to further range.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, 2s are at a disadvantage at range is common knowledge at this point, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it should be even more common now. And, and then 4s, ironically, did really, really well at 1 joule, but we think that might have been because of the hop thing, variables.
If I was a CQB player and I saw this, I would run 2.5s in all my guns.
Yeah, same.
There's no reason to go heavier.
Whereas as a field player, knowing the accuracy benefits I gain from heavier ammo, seeing that the time to target is not as dramatic of a difference as, frankly, a lot of people think the time to target difference
it's huge
between different BBs is way more dramatic than it is.
I thought it was big.
I mean, the most dramatic difference is 2.5s at 1.133 seconds at 1.5 joules to hit 150 feet versus 1.366 seconds at 150 feet for 0.4s.
Correct.
So it takes 0.2 of a second. 0.2 of a second longer to get 0.4s on target at 150 feet.
Correct.
That's something. It's 2 feet if someone is running, but there's a real argument there that the that the reduced deviation would be way more worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a lot of really interesting data. I think I've been doing 3.2s a lot because from my anecdotal observations, I've been having really good luck with them, with their accuracy. And here, especially, seeing how relatively well-rounded they are with time to target.
They're surprisingly well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be sticking with 3.2s because those are about the heaviest I can get for a decent price.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing is like all the way up to 3.2s. You can get them for pretty reasonable prices, especially now because Tippmann, and I have no idea the quality of the Tippmanns because I haven't bought them yet.
But Elite Force, Tippmann,
HPA,
Valken, HPA, they all make 3.2s.
They all make 3.2s. And they're all very cheap. The moment you step up above 3.2s, it becomes a game of a minimum.
How much money are you willing to throw down?
Yeah, it's $20 per 2,000. It's about $10 a thousand. That's what it becomes the moment you step over 3.2s. And that's a huge increase.
Yeah.
So...
But yeah, hopefully this video was entertaining and informative. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll put some shooting footage right after this so that you yourself can hopefully make some determinations on whether or not you thought our testing was worth a damn. And we'll also put all this data and a link in the description. So hopefully you can crunch these numbers yourself and come to your own conclusions and look at what BB weights do best for you. I think still best recommendation you could possibly get. Find a bunch of different BB weights, shoot the hell out of them out of whatever gun you're testing, and make your own determination of what BBs your gun likes best, and I think you'll have good luck with that.
Yep.
Anyway, I've been E-House,
Kyle,
and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace. In editing, we're going to try to measure the time between the shot and the impact on target so that we can show the time to target of the different weights BBs at different levels of energy. We've done other videos where we shot at longer distances with different weight BBs with an R hop versus a regular hop. We'll link that video in the description too if you're curious about hop setups. But this is just about your normal airsoft engagements. How much benefit do you get at relatively average airsoft engagement ranges? All right, so CQB gun, 1 joule, using 0.2 gram BBs, 50-foot target. Let's try 100 feet. We've got a good wind today, which I think is actually going to be interesting to observe how the wind does on the different BBs and how much the BBs resist wind. But leave your comments down below if you're mad we did this on a windy day. We're mad at ourselves, honestly. Now we've got the 150-foot target with the 1 joule gun with 0.2 gram BBs. So this I expect is going to be a little bit trickier, especially on a windy day like today. But let's see what we can do. I'm going to try to get at least 1 hit so I can measure the time to target.
Oh, that hit?
I think that was 1 hit, yeah. I think we finally got a hit. But the problem I'm seeing is it was going left, but earlier it was going right.
It's also dropping. Oh, yeah, dropping. It's
oh, they're dropping hard? Did we not do the hop up right?
No, the hop up's great. It's just because
it's twos.
It's twos.
You're bleeding too much energy.
So easily. Yeah.
So the observation seems to be that the maximum hop range we're getting out of this is just limited.
Yeah.
And that's another thing with BB weights is the heavier a BB is, the further it carries its inertia. That's why when we were doing the R-hop video, 0.4s were able to carry out to 250 feet compared to other BB weights that were having a hard time getting past 225. Because you are putting the greater amount of mass carries the energy better. So that's something to consider when you're making a choice. 0.2s, it seems like 150 feet, maybe slightly further, is you're reaching about your limit. So, does anyone else want to do any shooting for this?
No. Good.
All right.
No, I'll just make myself look like an idiot as I continuously miss the target. So.
Are you? Yeah, but I'm used to looking like an idiot.
That's
so
why we have you do it.
Fuck you guys. All right. So those are the 0.2 gram BBs. Now we've got 0.25 gram BBs. So 1 joule gun, 0.25 gram BBs. This is probably a little more like what a lot of people are using. 50 feet, 0.25 gram BBs, 1 joule gun. Just like the 0.2s, you can't miss.
Very quick.
Yeah, and the time to target will be down below. 100 feet.
You're over.
Yeah.
Under. You're a lot right. Yeah.
So 100 feet, I think we still got some wind on there.
Yeah, we still got some Still
Yeah.
wind impacting
I
that.
feel like we were still getting some wind on there at 100 feet, so that's the trick.
And again, I don't know if this was when we forgot to record the first time, but it is about 10-mile-an-hour winds we would say about today.
Yeah, probably about 10-mile-an-hour winds, and it's also like shifting wind direction.
Yeah.
Plus, going out here, we've got different lanes of wind coming out from the different gaps in the brush.
Yeah.
So it's just a real nightmare for making airsoft shots today. So we will own up to a lot of this being due to the wind, which I do think is almost part of the test, seeing if any of these can resist these shitty conditions. So now we've got 150 feet, 0.25 gram BBs. Let's see what we can do.
That's mag related.
There we go. Way easier to make hits at 100.
Dramatic improvement.
That is a dramatic improvement on the 150 feet for the 0.25s from the 0.2s, and on a day like today.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, no matter what, I can't imagine any situation unless you're so poor you can't afford the 2.5s. Get the 2.5s.
Yeah,
I don't think the time to target was actually. I think the time to target, we'll see when we measure it. It might be faster with the 2.5s.
I feel like the hits were harder too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think case closed. 2.5s are pretty much better than 2s in every single way from what we're seeing on a day like today. I don't think there's any situation where in outdoor conditions 0.2s have an advantage over 2.5s. Maybe unless you're within like 100 feet. Maybe. All right. Next up, we've got 0.28 gram BBs. This is pretty close to what Amy runs in this gun every day. Amy runs 0.3s when she uses this gun, which, yeah, I mean, you seem to have pretty good luck with the 3s from what I've seen on days better than today. But we will see how the 2.8s do. So now we've got the 1 joule gun running 0.28 gram BBs at 50, 100, 150 feet. Let's see how she does. Still pretty quick within 50 feet. I don't think you're losing significant time to target. 100 feet. We didn't miss a shot at 100 feet. So, seems pretty good to me. Let's see how the 150 feet goes. That hit.
You hit it, but low.
I think we might. Oh.
Low. There you go.
Okay. Now we've got the 1 joule gun using 0.32 gram BBs. So we are going to dial in the hop up, see what we can get, and then do the 3 targets as we have been doing. 50 foot, 1 joule gun, 3.2 gram BBs. I mean, it's pretty darn quick to me. And again, can't miss. It's 50 feet on a 2-foot target. What'd you expect? 100 feet. %, hit rate. Pretty quick time to target, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty quick.
Now let's try 150 feet.
Right.
Wind. Yeah, wind took that one.
Out of ammo.
Yep. Just over top.
Under.
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 Okay. So eventually we were able to kind of get it in and get a feel for it, and I think we did pretty good hitting the 150 foot
I think
target.
that is, if we look at the numbers, that's statistically way better. And these are in, again, harsh conditions.
And I was able to just go off here offhand, make 2 out of 3 hits on a windy, shitty day like today. So I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good with the 3.2s. So 3.2s, seem to be getting the best range and accuracy. We'll see what the time to target looks like.
Now we're gonna royally screw up the time to target.
Yeah, now.
No, my gun.
Why does it take so long?
Quick, just wait, it'll get there.
Honestly, I've never tested force in this gun, so this is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be interesting.
I'm curious if it'll lift the force.
Yeah, look at my gun.
So that's 150 feet with .4s not even aiming. All right. Spoiler warning.
my gun's got a aimbot on it.
Yeah. So let's try the 1 joule gun with 0.4 gram BBs at 50, 100, and 150 feet on a shitty day. Let's see how this goes.
That's still pretty quick.
That's pretty quick. I don't think you're losing significant time to target.
Yeah.
So now 100 feet. Did I miss?
Right.
All right, I'm gonna chalk that first shot up to me. The rest of them, 100% hit rate. We'll see what the time to target is in editing. I'm gonna top off the mag, and then we will try 150 feet, even though we already know it can do it when I'm not even aiming. So
It did seem slower to the 100-foot mark.
It did seem a little slower to the 100-foot mark. We'll see what that is. We'll see what that looks like.
Hunter.
Just over. You're not getting side-to-side variance, it's vertical variance.
Yeah, well, because I'm trying to figure out where to hold over. Let's see if I can turn the hop up. This is where you, oh no, the hop up's at max.
Yeah, well, we are lifting full with a 1 joule gun.
And this is where you run into the issues with heavy BBs, is whether or not your hop up can totally hop them. I'm holding like a target and a half worth of height over the target to be able to hit it, but it seems like the side-to-side variance has gone down drastically.
Yeah. Way over.
Right.
Little low left.
All right, so I think we had the easiest time in general hitting the 150-foot target, but it was figuring out where to hold because the hop up won't lift them.
Yeah, I think that's the limit of just the sheer energy of the gun.
Yeah, and of course of the hop up, because this is the stock hop up.
Stock hop up, stock bucking. Barrel is Maple 601.
Okay, so yeah, you have a stock hop up that's really not designed to lift 4s, because they probably don't figure too many people are using 4s. So there we go. That is the 1 joule gun at all the different ranges with all the different BBs. We will draw a conclusion after we have done everything else.
Okay, let me bring it inside so it doesn't freeze.
Okay. Oh, turn off your red dot. I had it on. All right. Now, we got the RPK.
Glorious RPK.
Fuck.
It's cold. Yeah,
It's so cold! Why did we do this?
it for the record, everyone, again, it is probably below 0 with the wind chill right now. It is cold.
Oh, you're lucky I love you people. I am a man of the people. Duty compels that I be charitable. All right. See what the hop looks like. My battery's frozen.
Harsh condition testing. Do you have another battery?
My battery is straight fucking frozen.
Do we have another battery?
I don't know.
Okay,
Shit.
well, maybe we should go inside, warm the camera up, and warm everything up, and then we'll come back out.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna go inside, film speed sim. So we just had to actually go inside and warm up this gun and let the battery recharge because it was too cold and the gun stopped working. So we're gonna try to do this really quick before the battery freezes again. So this is the just over 1.5 joule gun. We are running 0.2 gram BBs in it right now. It's got a really long barrel, which may or may not affect this test. Honestly, it doesn't matter that much. But yeah, we're going to use this and shoot the 50, 100, 150 foot targets and see what kind of results we get in crappy conditions. Let's check the hop first. That looks okay. All right, let's do it. Surprise, surprise, 50 feet, it's fine. 100 feet, let's see how it goes. Are these sights zeroed?
Should be. Oh, hang on. Shoot that. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. All right, 100 feet, no issue. Let's try the 150 feet. Maybe the energy difference will make up for the light BB a touch. I can't quite see where they're going.
They're just, it's wind taking it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
There, that was a hit.
Yeah, there were a couple of hits there. Just, again, at 150 feet with .2s, you kind of have to spray and pray, especially when it's windy like this and you're having a hard time tracking BBs. Really sucks.
Yeah, even at 1.5 joules, it just, that's the max of what they want to do.
Yeah, it's just too challenging for this kind of setup. I'm like really tempted to go home, fill up my bathtub, and just smoke a fucking cigar in my bathtub.
That sounds like a great plan.
I just don't want to do it because I don't want to fucking lose my security deposit, but I'm still tempted.
The thought is there.
That hop looks really good. All
All
right.
right.
Now we've got the 1.5 joule gun just about with 0.25 gram BBs. Let's see how it compares. No problem. Shoots the target at 50 feet really easily. "100 feet, absolutely no problem. Now we've got the 150 foot target with 0.25 gram BBs, 1.5 joule gun. Let's do this.
Up. There you go. Left. Right.
That looked okay.
Up.
Up left. Up left. Just over top.
Still up.
Just over top.
Still up. Right. Under. High. Right. Right.
It's got the distance.
There you go. There you go. Left. Left. High left. Middle. There you go.
Yeah, so at 150 feet, I'd kind of shift where I was holding. I think partially because the cold is messing with where the hop up is hopping stuff, but also because the wind is shifting, and these 2.5 gram BBs do not resist it super well, it seems. Now we have 0.28 gram BBs in the 1.5 joule gun, and we are going to see how these do. So, 50 feet. I don't think there's any issue there. Again, this is pretty easy. 100 feet. Those first two were 100% me, so I'm only gonna count the later ones because the first two were definitely me. The sights on this are off, so I'm kind of point shooting. Now let's try 150 feet. Where are they going? Oh, that's a hit.
That was a dramatic increase.
Dramatic increase. We went to almost a 100% hit rate once I figured out the hold at 150 feet. So 2.8s and a 1.5 joule gun, 150 feet. Actually really easy in these conditions. Seemed to do really well. Now we have the 1.5 joule gun with 3.2 gram BBs, and the hop arc is pretty much flat. I think I was over hopping on the 2.5s, by the way, but whatever. I'll make a note of that in fucking editing. Anyway, 1.5 joule gun, 3.2 gram BBs, 50 feet. I anticipate this being pretty easy. Yeah, 100 feet.
High.
Really?
Yeah, you're just going right
Those
over
are
it.
me then. All right.
Still high.
Hi.
Left.
High.
Left.
High.
There you go, you're center now.
All right, I have some overhop. Once I figured out to hold under, no issue at 100 feet, but let's try 150 feet, see how that goes.
Wow, that actually hopped over.
Okay, 150 feet, really, really easy with 3.2s with a 1.5 Joule gun, even in crappy conditions. I had to hold under a good bit, and I actually think I yanked one shot because I'm fucking cold and I'm trembling. So, yeah. Let's try the last one. Let's try the 4s, and then I get to go inside and drink whiskey and not be cold anymore.
It's interesting. I thought there would be more of a more dramatic improvement from the 2.8s to the 3.2s, but it's actually not that much in consistency. It's just more max range, it looks like.
Yeah, I think so. I think within 150 feet, honestly, you don't see the greater benefits of the 2.8s to the 3.2s.
I agree.
So, all right, finally, we have the 0.4 gram BBs. So, 0.4 gram BBs, just over 1.5 Joule gun, 50 feet, 100 feet, 150 feet. Let's do this. Again, no problem. 100 feet.
Over.
So, at 100 feet, they're actually getting there pretty slow.
That did sound slow. I
Yeah,
agree.
they're pretty slow. And I'm going to blame the misses on me because it's like really cold out now. So, yeah, 150 feet. Let's see how that goes. Where are those going?
I think low. Try to just pinch up. Oh, that one over. Okay. Over. We got wind coming straight at us, which is it's fucking with us.
You're really
Right.
far right.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, so 150 feet, you definitely have to figure out the hold. Here's the thing I'm noticing as a consistent issue. Regardless of the weight of BB, they are always affected.
Yes.
I think what we're seeing, though, is that the consistency of the hold changes when you get to heavier weights.
Yes.
Because it was kind of random at the lighter weights, and then in the heavier weights,
It becomes much more
once I get a hit, I can hold where that hold is, keep shooting, and keep making hits.
Yeah, no, it seems like the cone of expansion is tighter the heavier that you go, but you're still going to get impacted by wind.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this video from Gun Gamers. We hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. Check the description below if you'd like to buy a t-shirt or a patch, and use the coupon code JUDY10 for 10% off of your next order at Amped Airsoft. Thank you again for watching, and praise Judy.